Okay, on this lesson, we're going to be solving rational equations. So we've been looking at rational expressions. We've been multiplying, dividing, adding, and subtracting. Now we're going to be solving rational equations, so equations that have fractions. So one way is to solve a rational equation is by cross-multiplying. So if you have one rational expression on one side that equals another rational expression on the other side, you can just cross-multiply. So this first example, we can cross-multiply. So we'll have to do x minus 5 times x minus 2, and it will equal 1 times x minus 6. So I'm going to have to use FOIL here. So that's x squared minus 2x minus 5x plus 10. That equals x minus 6. Okay, so notice we have a quadratic equation because we have an x squared. So we can go ahead and combine like terms. And then we need to set it equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract x and add 6. So that's x squared minus 8x plus 16. Now you can use whatever method you want to use. So your choice. I'll just use factoring. So sum and product, sum is -8, product is 16. So that would be -4 and -4. And so remember, when you solve by factoring, you need to set each factor equal to 0 to find your solution. It just so happens that both of the factors are the same, so you get x equals 4. Now, you need to make sure that you're looking to see if it's an extraneous solution, which would cause your denominator to be 0. So our excluded values, x cannot equal 6 or 2. So notice x equals 4 is a good solution here. So this is one way of solving a rational equation. Okay, so another way, or looking at the next one, notice we have one fraction on the left, one fraction on the right. So we can solve by cross-multiplying. That's 15x. I need to use FOIL, so if you want to go ahead and use FOIL or write it down. So that's x squared plus 2x plus 4x plus 8. It's also a quadratic equation, so I'm going to combine my like terms and then set it equal to 0. You could also use the quadratic formula. You could graph it, find your x-intercepts, whatever way you want to use. So that would be minus 9x plus 8. Okay, so I'm just going to factor it. So that would be -1 and -8. Multiplies to +8, adds to -9. And then remember, to solve it, you're setting each one of those equal to 0. So x would be 1 and 8. Looking at your excluded values, x could not equal -4. And then 3 times what? So 0. Anytime it's just one term and you have a variable, 0 would cause that to be 0. So both of those are good solutions. So if it happens to be one of your excluded values, make sure you're not including it in your solution. Okay, so unfortunately, you don't always have just one rational expression on the left and one on the right. So if that's the case, to solve it, we're going to look at it now. So to solve this, we're going to find the LCD, which we already know how to do. And then we're going to multiply everything by the LCD, so that way your denominator will cancel out, and then you can solve. Okay, so first step is to find the LCD. Looking at your first denominator, notice I cannot factor x minus 3, so I'm going to just write it in my LCD. I can factor my second denominator. It's difference of squares. So I already have the x minus 3, but I don't have the x plus 3 in the LCD. Notice I can't factor the third denominator, and it's already in the LCD. So there's my LCD. I'm going to go through and multiply every single term by that LCD. The reason for this is because we should cancel the denominator out, because remember, if it's on top and then diagonally, we can cross it out. So notice this cancels with this one. I need to distribute. That's 2x plus 6. Bring down your plus sign. Notice both of them cancel, so I'm just left with a 6. And then the right side, x minus 3's cancel. I need to distribute, that's x squared plus 3x. Combine your like terms. It's also a quadratic equation. You can solve it however you want. If you are choosing to solve by factoring, you need to make sure that x squared is positive. That's why I'm moving everything to the right side. Excuse me. So I get x squared plus x minus 12. So I'm just going to continue and use factoring. So that would be positive 4 and negative 3. Multiplies to negative 12, adds to positive 1. So then your two solutions would be negative 4 and positive 3. If you look at your denominators, x cannot equal 3 or negative 3. So notice that's not a good solution. It would be extraneous, so the only answer we would put is negative 4. So make sure you're always checking for extraneous solutions. Okay, last one. So first step, notice we don't have one on one side and one on the other, so we're going to have to find the LCD. I cannot factor x plus 3, so I'm going to go ahead and write it in my LCD. I cannot factor x. We do not already have just an x by itself, so I also have to include it. We don't have a denominator in the other term, so I'm going to go through and multiply every single term by the LCD. So denominators should cancel out. That's the whole purpose of doing this. So we get 4x. And then bring down your plus sign, plus x plus 3, because the x is canceled. And then we also have to do this on the other side. Don't forget, don't just put a 1 there. You get x squared plus 3x. So it's also quadratic because we have an x squared. So I'm going to go ahead and combine my like terms. I'm going to set it equal to 0. If I'm going to factor it, you don't have to. You could use quadratic formula or the calculator. Then I need my x squared to be positive if I am going to factor. So that would be negative 3 and positive 1. For your factors, that's not your solutions. Those are your factors. So then I get x equals 3 and negative 1. So looking at your excluded values, x cannot equal negative 3 or 0 because that's just a variable by itself. Notice both of these are good solutions. Okay, so these are solving rational equations. If you have any questions, please let me know.